We have Team 5. It's my pleasure to introduce Team IBVM.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are super excited to share our project, the Improved Bag Ventilation Monitor, with all of you today. The first 5 minutes following a cardiac arrest are incredibly important for determining whether or not a patient survives. The first step is to begin CPR, which are sets of 30 compressions followed by 2 ventilations. While there are physical indications that indicate good compressions, rescuers rarely ever know whether or not ventilations are adequate. This is incredibly important because good ventilations can triple the survival rate. However, in low-resource environments, such as rural areas, emergency workers must rely on antiquated bag valve mask technology. Using this technology, they must use physically taxing maneuvers such as the head tilt chin lift and CE hold, which often fail. This challenge poses a challenge for over 60 million Americans who live in rural areas with substandard healthcare access. Introducing the IBVM, a low-cost, rapidly deployable way to improve ventilation for patients undergoing CPR by supporting a robust bag valve mask seal across a diverse range of anatomies with minimal operator fatigue. Current problems in CPR ventilation include leaky seals, as well as a lack of real-time feedback and high costs. The IBVM addresses these issues by supporting that seal for more than 5 minutes, providing feedback for more than 5 minutes, as well as costing less than commercial devices. These numbers were obtained using current EMT standards. Current devices that exist, such as the neonatal mask cushion, as well as the Apollo BVM and the EMA capnograph, only partially address these issues. Our device, the IBVM, addresses them all.
The IBVM is designed for high-quality ventilations. To operate, we will start by supporting the open airway using the adjustable scaffold. So first, the operator will lift the head, slide the scaffold underneath the neck, then rest the head back down in a closed airway position. Next, the operator will maneuver the head into the open airway position and support that position using the double scissor lift mechanism. Each scissor lift can be raised and lowered independently, then self-lock into place on the ridges at the bottom. And this mechanism allows 12 different raise heights per scissor lift for a total of 34 drop height combinations. As a result, the IBVM can reliably sustain the open airway position and accommodate an anatomical variability. As you can see here, Mahi and Austin have very different anatomies, but the scissor lift can support a similar open airway position for both of them. The scaffold mechanism also accommodates for reducing operator fatigue in comparison to the traditional method shown in the image. An acrylic ring can anchor the mask to the face so the operator doesn't have to hold it, and so the operator doesn't have to hold it, and then they also don't have, this frees up one of the hands so they don't have to hold multiple things simultaneously in place. And a rotating buckle also follows the movement of the head, maintaining the head position. The IBVM can also provide real-time feedback on the mask seal quality through our ventilation monitoring system. The ventilation monitoring system includes an enclosure that has an LCD display, a CO2 sensor, and a pressure sensor that standardizes CO2 readings, all controlled by an Arduino Uno and powered by a battery pack. The system can provide real-time feedback to the operator, who can make live adjustments, maintaining a leak-proof seal for the duration of CPR. If the LCD indicates that a seal is leaky, the operator can easily adjust the mask and tighten the straps to restore the quality of the seal.
Our device is also emergency compatible. In a set of tests evaluating the IBVM setup time, we matched 9 combinations of operators and subjects. For all of these 9 trials, we were able to demonstrate a median setup time of 144 seconds, which is less than the current median setup time of 180 seconds for mechanical CPR devices. Finally, our device is cost efficient. The cost of implementation for the IBVM is more than 3 times less than the current cost of implementation for integrated CO2 monitoring systems that are currently available. To get to this point, we went through an extensive testing and development. For our proof of concept, we demonstrated a single scissor lift mechanism that could lock at different heights as well as a scaffold that could support the weight of the average human head and neck, which is around 5 kilograms, as well as the scaffold itself weighing less than 5 kilograms. We also created a breadboard-based circuit with a mass airflow sensor and a CO2 sensor, and tested our device against commercial monitors to determine whether our system was able to differentiate between different levels of CO2 and airflow. Now moving on from the POC to MVP, we expanded on our scaffold, adding both a mask attachment piece and straps to create a tight seal to the patient's face. We also switched to a double scissor lift mechanism to accommodate more angles and heights. We also developed a signal detection algorithm that could differentiate between different ventilation conditions, as well as an LCD that could display real-time feedback. And we finally integrated our ventilation monitoring system with our scaffold to create a cohesive product and use this product in further testing to determine our ventilation detection. The most important addition that we had was a new CO2 sensor with a sampling rate that was similar to industry standards. For our final prototype, we improved our enclosure by making it smaller. We also made our circuit more compact by transitioning from a breadboard to a proto board. And we also improved and refined our leaky code for a leaky seal detection, and also to detect different ventilation monitoring states, and also providing the real-time feedback through the LCD display. And we also improved scaffold stability by using custom length dowels, as well as increasing the durability of this scaffold by removing any excess material that would cause any wear and tear.
To validate our CO2 sensor, we used a CO2 tri-gas incubator. We calibrated the sensor first and then found that the difference between the CO2 readings of our sensors and that of the incubator were not statistically significant across 4 different CO2 concentrations. We also wanted to test the seal quality using our scaffold. So we used a resuscitation quality improvement, or RQI dummy, which has embedded sensors in the test lungs that essentially provide data on the end tidal lung volume. And we found that with just the scaffold and a traditional bag valve mask, that we were able to deliver successful ventilations with a 96% sensitivity, which demonstrates that our scaffold is not only able to maintain an open airway, but also maintain the seal quality for adequate ventilations. For our first integrated experiment, we wanted to essentially simulate human breathing. We used a CO2 cartridge attached to a solenoid valve, as well as a micro air vacuum pump that were both connected via a T-connector and funneled into the mouth of the CPR mannequin. Essentially, the micro air vacuum pump was running continuously, but the solenoid valve connected to the CO2 cartridge was controlled by a microcontroller. So when the solenoid valve was open, CO2 flowed through the tubing, and it essentially simulated a breath. And when the valve was closed, the micro vacuum pump funneled room temperature air through the mouth, resetting our values to the baseline threshold. In this graph, you can see we first started with the artificially created leaky seal, measured over 4 breaths, and then tightened the straps and adjusted the scaffold to create a tight seal. And we found that the average peak value for the breaths in both a leaky seal and tight seal conditions were different in a statistically significant manner. And we also found that our system was able to adequately differentiate between these states with a high level of accuracy.
We conducted a second experiment to validate that the IBVM can accommodate anatomical differences. To do this, we measured the setup time of the IBVM across individuals with varying DIFMAS scores, where DIFMAS score is a predictor of how difficult it is to achieve an effective face mask seal. This score is generated based on 10 anatomical factors related to BMI, sleep-related airway characteristics, neck anatomy, and the Mallampati score. The score ranges from 0 to 18, where a higher DIFMAS score means it's more difficult to fit a mask to one's face. In our experiment across 10 subjects spanning a range of DIFMAS scores, all setup times were found to be under 180 seconds, which is the current median setup time of standard mechanical CPR devices. No statistical difference was found across DIFMAS scores, indicating that the IBVM does not discriminate against diverse anatomies. Furthermore, this indicates that we were able to standardize our setup of the IBVM for all users, ensuring reliable and effective ventilation regardless of individual differences. Although we've made significant progress towards both testing and development, challenges remain and next steps lie ahead. So our current testing model, specifically for the leaky seal, remains rudimentary, so we plan on outsourcing testing for more sophisticated models, such as a CPR stimulation testing. And currently, our testing pool lacks anatomic extremes, so we plan on testing on a larger sample size. And in the future, we plan to pursue FDA 510K clearance, which necessitates clinical access that we currently lack. All in all, the IBVM aims to make high-quality ventilation accessible anywhere for anyone. We are bioengineering seniors at the University of Pennsylvania. We'd like to thank everyone who helped us. We are IBVM, and any questions? Any questions?
Is it on? Oh, now it's on. So first of all, great presentation. I really enjoyed it. I have a couple questions. So when thinking about the design of this device, why didn't you guys also try to automate like the ventilation itself, right? Because when I'm doing CPR, I have one hand that I'm going to be, ventilating the BVM, and then the other hand's holding a C-clamp. And now I have one hand left, but I still can't leave the head of the patient, right? Like I can't draw meds. I still have to be there at the head. Is that something that you guys have thought about doing?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the original parts that we thought about, but as we discussed within the time frame we had to kind of flesh out a plan and test, it became a much bigger project. And I think if we were to take this further, Apollo BVM has done a lot of the more automatic ventilation part of it. We would love to maybe reach out to them and see if we can combine the technology to see if we can get it to work together. But I think the biggest part was that it became a massive project, and we decided to focus on one part of it at a time.
Reasonable. And then another question would be, do you anticipate that they're gonna be okay, so you have a subset of people who need CPR who suffered massive trauma, probably hemorrhagic shock, right? They're usually in a C collar. So that you're not gonna be able to manipulate the neck at all. And those are the patients that we can't intubate, because my first choice would be to establish an airway with intubation or an iGel. But if I can't do that, they're in a C-spine precaution. Do you anticipate that your system would work in that kind of situation?
Yeah, so this is actually something we thought of very early on when because I am a certified EMT, so when I was going through it, we were taught a lot about C-spine precautions. But then when I went back and took refresher courses to continue my certification, a lot of those precautions actually they've started to phase out, more so because they haven't necessarily found, I think requires a lot of testing within the field to see whether or not those precautions actually lead to significant changes, such as when I was learning the jaw thrust maneuver, they no longer teach that at all. They just say you to go straight to the head tilt chin lift, in which case our device would work if you're manipulating the head in that manner.
Cool, thanks.
Great work. Thank you, Team IBVM.